I mentioned that we work on the ground in communities that are economically distressed, and that's a lot of our work. To work, like I said, directly, right, providing direct technical assistance, and we work with a very broad range of people from all sorts of backgrounds. But we do have a significant amount of work that is with Black folks and historically Black communities. And one of the ways that I talk about the deep history of that is actually to use earth sciences a little bit. And so there's a region, region in the Southeast that folks call the Black Belt, which is, you take a map of the United States by county, you look at which of the counties that have the highest percentage of African American population. What you'll see that gets bright on that map is a kind of U-shaped region that starts in southeastern Virginia, goes through eastern North Carolina, down through South Carolina, across Alabama, Mississippi, through Georgia, across Alabama, Mississippi, it's the Mississippi River, then goes up the Mississippi River into western Tennessee, eastern Arkansas. This is also a region that has really good soils for agriculture. And this is the region that had the highest number of enslaved Africans that were brought to the United States. And so there's this connection between land, people, and history, but also economic development, right? Because these are places that their economies were founded on free labor. And now they're still struggling economically because of that history and because of racism. And it's connected, the reason they're in those places is connected to the earth. I think one of the reasons why I do some of this work well is because I'm not so immersed intellectually in that. And I can sort of step back and say, well, there are other things that are possible. And pulling in examples from other sides of the planet, right? Because many people who are from a place and grew up in that place and stay in a place have difficulty seeing perspectives from other geographies. I think what's allowed me to contribute is actually being pretty open-minded. And while someone who has a more traditional background, I'm not saying they couldn't do those things, I think that I may have been actually better suited because I was so ignorant at the beginning of my work, really, about the process. And doing a PhD in particular is really about that. I remember my advisor at some point saying, once you go through this process, what it means is, yes, you have some particular knowledge about this topic that you did your dissertation on, but what it really means is you know how to learn.
Why are you doing this?
Obviously, my parents, and then not in a direct way, but just how they raised me. And I think also observing people, oftentimes sort of seeing the potential in people and in places that maybe they themselves don't realize. My PhD advisor had a significant impact on my decision actually to go to graduate school, but how to think broadly about the earth sciences and to see the connections between different interests that you might have that may not be readily apparent. These kind of big questions based on small amounts of information and that are very interesting to me.
Well, what is the most difficult thing?
I think some of the more challenging things come into play that oftentimes when you take a step deeper besides like what that end goal is, that there are groups that are just diametrically opposed. So that exists and that's real. And it's pervasive in many of the places that we work in, right? Everyone can kind of agree on the long-term goal, but the ideas on how to get there aren't compatible. We can see, we see those issues right clearly from this third party perspective. And sometimes it can be depressing, right? Because you see that all the elements are there, right? They have all the assets, physical, human resources, even financing currently, all those things there. But it's the relationships and the difficulty of those relationships in that place that prevent it from realizing that potential. The more narrow the question in the field is, the more it's possible for an individual person to be best at that, right? And to know it, right? Better than anyone else. And that itself is not a bad thing. But what it does is it makes it very difficult to collaborate. That is something that is very central to the work that I do now. Thinking about what the outcome it is that you want. It's like, okay, we want to get to this place, right? Whether it's better job opportunities, a healthier environment, whatever it is in this place. And there's an infinite number of pathways to get there. Right? But I say, well, given what we have control over, what's going to be the simplest pathway there? And oftentimes for us, it means, well, we're gonna have to collaborate with a whole bunch of people, right? And if we get credit or not, that's not really. We're interested in that end goal, right? And if there's someone else that's made already halfway there, it's like, well, what can we do to support them to get all the way there?
I would like to ask you, what is this art of bringing together people that you have?
My approach comes out of really how I started this work, which was, I have this earth science background. I'm starting to work in economic development. I don't have any expectation that anyone wants to work with me, would even see the benefit. And so from the beginning, I was very much interested in what are the things that this person, let's say you, right? What are the things that you do that you're already doing that can contribute to the kinds of outcomes and goals that I have? So let me capture that. Let me approach you around that piece. I'm not going to try to get you to immediately do things that are different from what you might be doing. I'm really going to focus in on what are the things you're already doing. If there's not like there's this perfect person that's out there, and I was like, this person we have to collaborate with. That's not really our approach. The approach is, here are all the things that we need help with. Let's find people who may be already doing pieces of those and see if we can bring them into working with us again around those things they care about. Much of what different people from different places, backgrounds, disciplines want as end goals is the same. It's the process to get there that can be extraordinarily different, sometimes completely incompatible with each other, as well as what the risk is to them as an individual or to their profession broadly.